So here we have our completed 3D model that we're ready to now import into the games engine. So before we import it, we're going to need to export out of 3ds Max. So we're just going to go through how we do that, and it'll be the same process really for any model. So first thing you need to consider is that when we export this model that we have in this scene here, it's going to support export every single individual element here, all as separate files. All right, so each little bit of the model, when you import it into Unreal Engine anyway, they'll all be individual assets. Okay, so in some instances where you might want to move them independently, that would be a good thing. But in most instances here, if I move this, all my model is made up of all these individual elements. And I don't want to have to individually move them around, selecting all of them as I move them all within the games engine. That's going to be a nightmare. So before we export, what I'm going to do is select like the main, piece of my model. And I'm going to come over to the editor here, and I'm going to find this option here called Attach. If I turn on Attach, what I can do is if you hover over all these different elements, you see they highlight. So for like this flag here, I want to attach it because it's always going to be part of this same model whenever I move it around. So if I click it, it does give you these options here, and you just want to stick with that top one, which is the default one, and push OK, and then it won't edit any of the materials and things like that. So just do that, and then yeah, you literally are just going to need to come around here like this. What you can do to make things quicker with attaching, there's a little dialog box next to attach. That will bring this up. So if you know, like I want all of these boxes, for example, hold shift. So if I click one, hold shift, and then click the bottom one there, I can push attach, and it will do all of those in one go. You can see I've been a little lazy. I haven't done the bit that you can't see, but yours will have everything on. So yeah, there's quicker ways to attach. We can do it like this, the manual way. But eventually, well, they're all called brick. I was sensible when I named them, so that makes it easier to do this. Attach all of those. I think that's everything. So now if we move that, yeah, that's taking everything along with it. So now when I export, that will be one object, and these will all be individual objects. To be honest, I can probably reposition all of these in the games engine as well. So what I'm going to do is actually get rid of all but one of each, because I can then duplicate those in the games engine as well. Now, remember what I said about when we very first started about centering your object to 0 on the coordinates there, so that the pivot point in the games engine will remain at the center of each object. So if I exported all of this, these objects here, where that pivot point is in the center of the object now, in the games engine, the center of this object will be over here, and it will be a bit awkward to move things around. So again, just center everything, even though they're going to be all overlapping on top of each other. That's fine, doesn't matter. And this ground plane, I don't need to export either. All right, so I've just got my model, one barrel, one crate, and my tower. Okay, next up, we need to actually do the exporting. So I'm going to go File, Export. There's the export option there. Let's make this window a little bigger. And you need to stick to this .fbx file type. All right, and if you're using like Blender or something else, then you'll be able to export as an FBX as well. So we don't need to worry about any of these other bits. FBX is the one we want. I'm just going to save mine to desktop for ease, but you will have a more sensible location to export to. And I'm just going to call this tower. That's fine. And hit save, and you'll have this settings box come up. There are some, don't just push OK here, there are some important things we need to change. So if I drop down this one first, geometry, it turns on this turbo smooth automatically. You don't want that on, because that's going to like try and round off all of your edges and things, and it basically will kind of deform the model, which you don't want. You don't want turbo smooth. You'd only really want that on if you had like a character model or something maybe. Animation, we don't have any animation in our models, so I can get rid of that. Cameras, I'm not bringing over cameras. I'm not bringing any lights. Audio, it won't even let you toggle that down anyway. And embed media, this one you now need to turn on because we've got materials and we want them to come with my 3D model as well. If you don't turn that on, your model won't bring all the materials with it. Shell material, yeah, just leave that how it is. Don't worry about advanced options and hit OK. What you'll then see is, if I go to my desktop, a file like this. So it's called tower there. Okay, but that's fine. That's just our FBX files. No, don't worry about trying to open it. All we're going to do is import that into the games engine. So once you have that file there, you are good to go with importing that into Unreal, which we'll do in a separate video.